Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to our Donor Advised Fund Learning Zoom. I'm Lynn Kilbourne, the Director of Development for the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, and we are glad that all of you have joined us to learn more about donor advised funds. We are really excited at the foundation to talk about donor advised funds as a creative giving tool that we think more of our lay folks in our churches can and should take advantage of. And hopefully we're going to convince you of that by the end of this time together. I am also joined by two other foundation staff folks, and I'll let them introduce themselves, and I'll turn it first to Amy Anderson to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Anderson, and I am the Development Officer in Northwest Arkansas. So as you may or may not know, we opened an office in Northwest Arkansas almost 4 years ago. So I am that office.
You are that office, and there is a physical office as well.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, glad y'all are here today.
I'm Clarence Trice, the Senior Vice President and CFO of the foundation. I'll point out this is Lynn and Amy's show, but they asked me to join and contribute when it might seem appropriate.
Yeah, I won't say that Clarence is our fact checker because I feel like he could really have fun with that. But as we are talking about finances and a giving tool, Clarence is a fount of knowledge for all of us, and he is literally just right across the wall over there, my next door neighbor. And there are lots of times, even this morning, that I ran over there with a last minute question, just clarifying something about a donor advised fund. So Clarence is here to answer your hardest questions. We'll just toss those to Clarence, but also to help us with some of the financial questions that his expertise will really be able to provide a great explanation for. So I'm going to get us started by sharing my screen, and let's see, share my screen, and we've just welcomed another guest. Did you admit her, Amy?
I did. Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Well, welcome. Oops, I went too far. All right. Well, welcome, Bailey. We're glad that you're here. We are getting started, and y'all can everybody see my shared screen? Our welcome for our Learning Zoom on donor advised funds. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, excellent. Well, to get started, we always, whenever we can gather a group, we always love to just remind folks who we are at the Methodist Foundation and what we do to help connect the dots of our ministry. And so just want to take just a moment to briefly reintroduce you to the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, where our mission is to establish and manage charitable funds to strengthen and expand Methodist ministries across Arkansas. There are two big parts to that mission statement. We establish and manage charitable funds, but we are more than just money managers. We also are, we care about the local church. We are mission people, and it is our mission to strengthen and expand Methodist ministries across Arkansas. And these two sides of our mission statement, they work together to have an incredible impact across Arkansas and Arkansas Methodist ministries and ministries that Arkansas Methodists value. We are the 7th largest Methodist foundation out of 47, and we are the 7th largest because of our assets under management. We manage just over $225 million in assets, and we've discovered that we tell people that number, and that's a number that so many of us cannot comprehend. But also when churches and when folks hear it, they think, well, you have $225 million. You could do anything. We also like to clarify, how do we get to that $225 million? You can see in this pie chart, the majority of it is in two types of accounts: agency accounts and trustee accounts. These are the terms that we at the foundation use to define the types of accounts that churches or individuals establish at the foundation. And you'll see on the right, first is agency accounts. These are the accounts that local churches or Methodist organizations or institutions that they have placed with us, that we manage their charitable funds. and that accounts for some 50.9%. That money belongs to the local church or that Methodist ministry or organization. And then on the other side, 43.9% of our assets are in what we call trustee accounts. These are the accounts, funds that are made up from gifts from individuals given to the foundation to benefit their beloved Methodist ministry or organization. And so this money does belong to the foundation, but we are bound to make the distributions in accordance to the donor's instructions. So we manage this money and it benefits local churches, organizations, and institutions. But because we have these kinds of accounts and we manage $225 million in assets, here's what that means. We distribute over $7 million annually to strengthen and expand Methodist ministries across Arkansas. So we manage funds to strengthen and expand Methodist ministries across Arkansas, and that we're strengthening it by the distributions that are made, and 1.9 million returned back to churches and institutions and organizations who have accounts at the foundation. So those agency accounts that are the over 50% of our funds, we sent with distributions back to those account holders from their funds, 1.9 million. But the trustee accounts, those funds that have been given to the foundation to benefit beloved Methodist ministry, last year we distributed 3.8 million to churches and organizations who are beneficiaries of those funds. And some of those trustee funds are from donors who gave to the ministry of the foundation, allowing us to have our vital grant ministry. And last year we distributed just over $1.8 million of grant money. And I said earlier, we're the 7th largest Methodist foundation based on assets under management. This is the stat that we're way more proud of. We give away more of our own money in grants than any other Methodist foundation in the connection. And it's because of those generous Methodists who have come before us and who have believed in the ministry and the vision of the Methodist Foundation. And so we have a grant program like no other in our connection, and that 1.8 million awarded in 24. You can see some pictures from some of the grants. We've seen our staff supporting Canvas Community in the top right. This was a young adult mission trip that Mackie Yoakum helped to get together. Our college students from around the state went to Epworth by the Sea in Georgia. And then in Northwest Arkansas, you'll see that we have supported the Diaper Collective, and you can see their ribbon cutting, giving thanks they were giving thanks for our support to their organization. 1.8 million last year, but since 2010, we have awarded nearly 16 million in grants. And so that's coming from those folks who have invested in the giving gifts to the foundation for our ministry. And also at the foundation, because I said we manage charitable funds, there are fees associated with those funds, fees that ours are competitive, fees that they would have to pay anywhere they invested, that a church chose to invest those funds. But our fees that we receive, they give us the income to have the staff and the resources to be able to oversee this thriving grant ministry, and even give us income into our grant, our grant funds. So by partnering with the foundation, organizations are not only strengthening their own ministry, but also helping us to strengthen Methodist ministries across Arkansas. And if you've ever thought about, well, would the Methodist Foundation be willing to give my church or my organization a grant? Our grant committee would love to hear what you have in mind. You can see some of the grant funding priorities that our committee has, as well as the website. If you go to our foundations and click on grants, you can read more about our grants and click the application to apply online for a grant from the Methodist Foundation. So that's who we are at the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, and we're excited this day. One of the ways we can strengthen and expand Methodist ministries in Arkansas is to share about donor advised funds and this creative giving tool that y'all are here to learn more about today. So I'm going to hand it over to Amy to launch us into donor advised funds.
Great, thank you. Like Lynn said, we really strive to work with churches and institutions, but also individuals across the state, and to help with their giving, and helping them kind of streamline that, and giving them different options of doing that. And one of those ways is with the donor advised fund, and as our good friend John Wesley explains, a donor advised fund is a charitable giving tool where a donor contributes money or assets to a public charity and then advises on how those funds should be invested and grants recommended to other qualified charities. So that's kind of an overall definition of a DAF, as we call them. And so we're going to just dive a little deeper into the benefits of that, why people choose to do a donor advised fund, how to go about doing that over the next few slides. Do I have access to changing the slides?
No, I have ultimate power.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for advancing. Before we get started, we wanted to just give a shout out to Dr. Dan Heist. He works at Brigham Young University, and Lynn and I met him a couple years ago at a conference that we attended, and went to his session on donor advised funds, and you can see a little bit about him there and what he does. But he also he's a co-founder of the Donor Advised Fund Research Collaborative. So a lot of these next slides that we're gonna and data that we're gonna go over with you, we got from Dr. Heist, and we have actually, well, there I am with the DAF master, the same conference where Lynn and I met him 2 years ago. I was just at. In fact, I just got back last night. So he was there. I attended another one of his sessions, so I had to get my picture with the DAF master. But we do appreciate his expertise, and we actually invited him to come speak at our annual lawyers conference. And then Lynn organized him to come and speak to other foundations, Methodist foundations across the country. So we definitely value his expertise and all the research he's done for the donor advised funds. All right, moving forward. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of a DAF, we thought it was important to show you how DAFs are having an impact on charitable giving and charitable giving. And so this is the research that, again, Dr. Heist provided, and some of the organizations, the recipient organizations from 2014 to 2018, the kind of the industries or the areas that are benefiting from donor advised funds. And you can see that 29% went to education, but the next highest percentage is religion. So that's obviously a very important part of people's giving, and we have seen that here at the foundation. I know we're going to visit a little bit about that, but just interesting that not only in those areas, but really across so many different areas, DAFs can have an impact. And it really is up to the donor as to, they make recommendations and advise us or whatever company that you're using to who you want to give the grants to. So it really can reach a number of different areas. All right.
Yeah, and I think, as Amy, you just learned that stat that they've grown in popularity. And I think one of the reasons they've grown in popularity is the diversity with which a person can use their DAF to support so many organizations dear to them.
Yeah, DAFs really are, like you said, they're growing in popularity. And I went to a couple of sessions this last week on DAFs, and one of the guys that, not Dr. Heist, but one of his colleagues was saying that, DAFs have been around for a while. They've, I think 1914 was the original when they first kind of were introduced as a giving tool, but they recently have just grown in popularity, and so they've been around a while, but really growing in popularity and effectiveness with donors. So how does a donor advised fund work? And here is And actually, Dr. Heiss used this exact same slide at his presentation the other day. But it's basically, you know, there's three main steps. A donor will make a tax-deductible contribution to their DAF account. They'll set up a DAF account and there are different organizations in which you can place your contribution, but the foundation being one of those, and you would make that tax-deductible contribution to set up the DAF. And then the DAF sponsor, which would be, as I mentioned, like the foundation or an investment firm, will then invest that for you as well as manage the assets for the donor. So it really simplifies things on the donor's end, whoever gives the contribution initially. It really just simplifies the process of making grants, making gifts to those nonprofits that are so important to people. So, and then as I mentioned, the donor will then advise the sponsor as to where to make those grants. So the money is entrusted in, we're just going to say the foundation, because of course that's where we would love for the money to come. So the money is entrusted in the foundation, and we work with that donor on investment strategies as well as where to make those grants. And there are different, I guess, strategies as far as donors that we're going to go into in just a minute, because there are different types of donors and what they're looking for and in their donor advised fund. And that's one reason that these have really grown in popularity, because they are very versatile and really allows the donor to do what they want to do with their contribution. Yeah. All right, I think I am passing it back over to Lynn.
Yes. So now, so Amy has shown us how, you know, how a donor advised fund works, from establishing it to making the grants with this really quick overview. Now we're going to dive in and also see, like, why are donor advised funds popular? Why would a donor want to use a donor advised funds? What has contributed to their increased popularity, especially in the past few years? And the first reason that a donor may want a donor advised fund, the reason why they're so popular, is they are the convenience. There are some great convenient really convenience incentives to using a donor advised fund. And the first one is an immediate tax reduction. So, or a tax deduction. I wish I could say a tax reduction. An immediate tax deduction. So when you have a gift, when you have an amount of money that you are going to put into a donor advised fund, no matter how long you're going to let that money be in the fund, no matter the amount of time between when you make that gift and you make your first grant from your donor advised fund, you get the immediate tax deduction for your taxes of that year. So you get the tax deduction in the year that the gift was made. My fancy lights went off, got to turn them on. You do this by, you can give different kinds of gifts. You can gift cash or non-cash assets. So you can do a cash gift, sending a check. You can do appreciated stocks, which are always a great option for charitable giving, since you don't have to pay the capital gains taxes on appreciated stocks if you're giving that giving that to a charitable organization. But you can also use bonds or mutual funds. You can use almost anything except one thing. There's one type of non-cash asset that cannot be used to establish a donor advised fund, and that is a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution from your IRA. So Amy and I love getting to use all the acronyms. So you cannot use a QCD from your IRA for a DAF, even if it is for your beloved UMC. So that's that's all the acronyms we could fit into one sentence, but for some reason the government hasn't yet allowed donors to use QCDs for DAFs. We've learned from Dr. Heiss there are lobbyists, there are folks who are pushing for that change in some of the tax laws, but you can use appreciated stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and just good old cash to establish a donor advised fund. And here to me is just the best, one of the most convenient part of a donor advised fund is no matter how many grants you're going to make from a donor advised fund, you have the simplification of your record keeping to one receipt. So you're going to get one receipt from the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas for all of the money that you put into your DAF in 1 year. If you fund that DAF at $10,000 and then make 10 $1,000 distributions to your beloved Methodist ministries, instead of having to keep up with 10 different receipts, you're going to get one receipt for your taxes from the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas. And even if you're giving a portion of it through our online portal, a portion of it through the appreciated stocks, and a portion of it through a check that you're going to send us, instead of having to keep up with all the receipts from the different ways that you made your contributions, you're going to get that one receipt from the foundation for your gift to the foundation to establish or to go into your donor advised fund. So it really, if you are someone who is charitable with many organizations, this simplifies your record keeping to one receipt from the foundation or wherever you have placed your donor advised fund. So the first reason that people love donor advised funds is their convenience. The second is they are so easy to use, and they afford a donor a lot of options and time for determining how they're going to be charitable. So the first thing is this time for grant making. A person may have a wealth event when they've come into an unexpected amount of money, and they know they want to be charitable with it this year, but they're not sure where or how. You can put the money in a DAF, and then you can take your time to decide where are you going to send these grants, to what organizations are you going to make these charitable contributions. So it gives you time to think through your charitable giving and where you'd like to have your impact. Also, they're low cost. We do have investment fees associated with our DAF, but it is a very low fee, a very nominal fee, and we do not charge charity. So that's definitely helps with that ease of use. Also, there's opportunity for growth. If you invest your DAF, you have the opportunity then for your the amount that you're able to award to increase over time. So there's the opportunity for growth. And another reason that some people love donor advised funds is that there's the potential for anonymity. Amy just learned at the conference that she was at this last week, this potential for anonymity isn't an incentive for lots of people. In fact, only about 4% of contributions from DAFs were made anonymously. But this means you would make the gift, you would submit or give the gift to the manager of your DAF, the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas. That would not be anonymous. You would get your tax deduction. But if you wanted to make an anonymous gift to your church or to another organization, we would send the distribution on your behalf, and we wouldn't have to reveal your name and information to them. And for some folks, that anonymity is important, but for vastly, research shows that that's not a driver in why a person chooses a DAF. But we do like to lift that up, that is a possibility, and it's an incentive for some, and there may be cases in which that would be an incentive for you. And then the last reason we want to share of why DAFs are growing in popularity and why a donor may want to use a DAF, and it's family involvement. DAFs are as the research has shown, that as the DAFs have increased in popularity, I think anecdotally, we've also seen a decrease in family foundations, because DAFs give the opportunity, and we'll discuss this in some more in just a moment, they give the opportunity to involve the family in your philanthropy and your charitable giving. that the family can be involved in the grants that your donor advised fund are making to your beloved Methodist ministries and other charitable organizations. But not only can it allow for conversation for family and helping to make those grants, a DAF can also have a succession plan that you can leave your DAF in your estate plans to a successor. So to children or to grandchildren or to other family or friends, that after you have passed, your donor advised fund can continue to grow and make distributions to benefit your beloved ministries. So people are saying that this is, it's encouraging generational philanthropy, and it's replacing family foundations. And another reason that it's replacing the or a reason it's replacing family foundations is if a family has their own family foundation, they're going to be responsible for filing taxes for that foundation. And so there's some work that's associated with running a family foundation, some expenses with running a family foundation, and just some time and less ease of use details. But a DAF can have the same benefits of a family foundation, that succession plan, and beginning to inspire generational philanthropy and allowing a family or multiple folks to have a voice in the grants, the organizations that are being supported. And so they're beginning to replace family foundations because of the low cost, the ease of use, and all of the convenience. And we're going to talk in a few more moments about how a family, how an individual could really set up how they would go about setting up a donor advised fund that could then have all of the benefits of a family foundation without all of the associated cost and responsibilities of a family foundation.
Lynn, we have a little bit of chatting going on, so
Okay.
I just want to let's address some of that stuff.
Okay.
So Clarence added that any investment growth in the DAF is tax-free. Clarence, do you want to speak any more to that?
No, it's just a further advantage. It is tax-free.
Okay. And then as far as minimal amount to start a DAF, that honestly varies from company to company or foundation to foundation. For the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, ours is a $10,000, right?
$10,000 minimum. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And but that does vary from different companies. So definitely when you look into them, that would be one of the things that you'll want to ask them. And the tax deduction is on the front end, but I mean, whenever you give money whenever you contribute, it's at that point. But when you also, if you add money to it later in the year, that is also tax deductible. So
and I'm gonna let Clarence unpack this question, because this is why Clarence is here for sure. I see that Bud is asking the question, is it permissible to spread the deduction over a period of years? So I think this is asking about the tax benefits of bunching. And Clarence, can you speak to that if a person is giving a larger amount, are they able to spread that deduction over multiple tax years?
If you give a large amount such that the contribution is greater than you can use in a current year, it used to be 50% of your adjusted gross income. I think it's slightly higher now. You can certainly carry that over for 5 years, but the contribution is used in the year that you create the DAF. You can add to the DAF in subsequent years, and if and when you add to it, then those contribution deductions would be available in the year in which you contribute or add to the DAF.
Thank you.
And then one more follow-up on Bud's. Yes, you were given the tax deduction when largely with exception of Clarence's, the 50% of your gross income, you receive the tax deduction with the gift. You do not receive a tax reduction when your gifts are made. So when a distribution, we call them grants, when you award a grant or you make a distribution from your DAF, we have a special letter that we send to the recipient of that contribution to let them know that this is coming from a donor advised fund, and that it is appropriate to thank the giver, to thank the donor, but it is not necessary to send the donor a tax receipt because the donor will have already received a tax receipt from the Methodist Foundation. So if you were to set up a donor advised fund and make a gift to Fort Smith First United Methodist Church, you would tell us to send such and such amount to Fort Smith. We would issue that check to Fort Smith or the electronic transfer to Fort Smith, and then we would send them a letter accompanying that to let them know it came from a donor advised fund. There's no need to send you a charitable receipt with that gift that you would have already received it. So those are great questions. Are there any other questions right now? All right, well, we are going to move along after making, the case of why use a donor advised fund. Well, it's convenient, it's easy to use, and it really encourages generational philanthropy and family involvement. I'm going to answer one more question. Someone asked earlier, or we brought it up earlier, where can you set up a DAF? Of course, we want to draw your attention to religious affiliated organizations offer donor advised funds, including the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas. But DAFs are also, there are national programs and other community foundations that offer these. So these are the different kinds of sponsoring organization, but they have to be a nonprofit themselves, because you are giving a gift to a nonprofit when you're making your DAF contribution. So you can see there are different kinds of sponsoring organizations, but this is a service that is offered by the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas.
And just to piggyback on that, when you do, and I don't think you just said that, if you did, I'm sorry. If you do, when you reach out to those places, really do ask them those questions, like their minimums as far as what's their minimum contribution, what are the fees, do they charge for other transactions, those sorts of things, to really see what the best fit's going to be for you and what you're looking for. So, okay.
Great point. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah, of course. So I mentioned earlier that there are different, one of the intriguing things about a donor advised fund is its versatility, and there are different donors with different thoughts about how they want to give and different resources and things like that. So it really does allow the donor to do what's best for them in their situation. So there are 3 ways to think about giving with a donor advised fund. Again, props to Dr. Heist, because he came up with this terminology that we just love, and we use it. So first of all is the bathtub giving. So this is for donors that are looking to make these grants within a 1 or 2 year period of making that contribution. So it's as it says, an annual contributing strategy. It's more short-term investment strategy, because obviously if the funds aren't in there for very long, it's not going to be accruing much interest or getting more money in that account. And then you can also, this is a great way to use appreciated security. So if you want to, sell some stock and put in to open up a DAF, this is a great way to do it. And kind of with the bathtub, you think about, when you take a bath, you fill it up and then you drain it out, and fill it up and then you drain it out. So that's kind of the thought here with the terminology, is you're going to put money into the DAF and then you're going to spend it within a year or 2 and then continue that cycle. So that is one way. The next one is what Dr. Heist calls the water tank giving. And these are for people that are looking to utilize that DAF a little bit longer, 2 to 10 years. And the tax savings for these individuals, tax savings carries a high importance. Their grant making strategies focus a lot of times on social impact. And for these, you can use securities, cash, and other investments. So for these people, we'll have a specific example here in a moment, but have the money that they want to continue to, over the next few years, contribute into their DAF and then give over those 10, 2 to 10 years. So a little longer term than the bathtub giving, but not as long term as the water tower giving. So if you look at that, that's really for those donors who are wanting to have a long-term DAF of 10 plus years. The tax savings carries a high importance with them. And these are the ones that are most likely to have that family involvement and really encouraging their kids and grandkids to continue on with their donor advice fund. So more than likely, this is going to be more of a longer term strategy for those donors. So Lynn, is there anything you wanted to add to that before we go to the specific?
I think just we'll touch on this kind of throughout the examples as well, but I think it's important to note that the water tank, the tank and the tower folks, those are probably folks who've had a wealth event, whether that be a bonus or an inheritance, that they know they want to use it charitably, but it's more than what they want to spend in 1 or 2 years, that they don't want to drain it, that they want to be charitable with it, but they need to make the gift in 1 year, but then spread out their charitable giving over a period of time. So also the type of wealth event that a person has had may determine whether it's going to be a bathtub, water tank, or a tower. So I have a wealth event twice a month whenever my paycheck hits. But that's going to be my bathtub. I'm going to spend all that.
Yeah.
Or I have a place for all of that. But if I have a larger wealth event that I need to last over a longer period of time, I'm going to look at that tank or that tower. And now I think let's get into those.
Well, and that reminds me, one of the sessions I went to at this conference, and I don't have the data pulled up right now, but he was saying that the highest percentage of when DAFs are, when people contribute to their DAF is towards the end of the year, because they are starting to get those bonuses and things of like that. And then the timing of the grants and when they're distributed really is pretty equal throughout the year, because it really is up to that individual. But there's a pretty distinct increase in contributions towards the end of the year because of that wealth event of bonuses. So maybe we should encourage Clarence, some bonuses so we can set up DAFs and,
I'll make note of that.
All right, so we're going to look at a couple of examples just to further explain the 3 different types of donors. So again, these are examples. These are actual quotes. The names have been changed, but quotes from the research that Dr. Heist has done. But this is Kayla. She is a tub donor, and you can see her quote there. We give away $5 million a year. So we put $5 million in each year, we spend it down. Then we put $5 million in and we spend it down. So that bathtub effect there. And that's their budget for the year that she wants to spend in donations. She knows that every year. That sounds like a pretty good bonus for me, Lynn. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
I think
I
every
would,
year that we can
yeah. That bonus would motivate me for sure. Mm-hmm.
Clarence isn't laughing. But anyway, so that's a tub donor. So
yeah, that number may make us laugh. There are actual donors who think about a bathtub or who think about annual giving like this. But you can think about even on a smaller scale. I know I'm going to give away $15,000 a year, $20,000 a year. It's going to be in multiple places. I put it in, I spend it, I fill it up, I drain it. So you can change to understand that, this example more. You can change it from 5 million to something that makes more sense with your own annual giving. But they know that's what they're going to do. Fill it, drain it.
And then here we have a tank donor, Yael. Is that right, Lynn? Yael?
Yeah.
All right. And you can see here, he said, we don't have a donor advised fund where the money just sits there. It pretty much gets spent within a year or two of putting it in there. Probably. Well, I should say 3 years of putting it in there. We sold a winery almost 2 years ago. So a major income event that Lynn was talking about. And when we did that, we put a bunch of money in the donor advised fund so we could met it out. It's like, what? Met it out over years. But we're just finishing that chunk of money. So they're not, draining it immediately within the year. They wanted to have it in there so they could use it over the next few years as they utilize that money. So that's an example of a tank donor.
And we have existing donor advised funds at the foundation, and I can think of a couple of folks who they really see their donor advised fund as like a water tank. One of the folks in their family had a bonus, and they needed a place to put that bonus because they knew their income was going to look different in a couple of years. So they couldn't use all of it they needed to let it spread out their charitable giving. So they've made a large contribution to their DAF with that wealth event, but they're also making monthly contributions. And with their monthly contributions, we are sending a distribution to their local church for their pledge to their congregation. They've made a pledge to the foundation for a particular ministry. So they have loaded their DAF with that wealth event. They're also using it for all of their regular charitable giving to streamline and to streamline their receipts, that they're not having to keep a receipt from their local church and a receipt from the foundation. But they also know when their income looks different in the next couple of years, this is when they have the time to think about how they want to make grants. They still have the money in their donor advised fund to continue to be charitable at the same level with their local congregation. So we have in another donor advised fund, I can think of another one. The family had a large wealth event, end of the year bonus, needed to get that tax deduction that year. They made the gift to the foundation, and then they said, I need to complete a capital campaign commitment to my church. So I want, after this, at the end of this period, I'll immediately send a large check to my church for this amount. But then I also want to use it for my tithe for the next 3 years. And again, that's that one receipt, needed to get that tax deduction in 1 year. But the donor was using it for contributions to their local church for their annual commitment and to their capital campaign commitment over a period of years. So they were and they've continued again to add to their DAF as they're able. So they're really using it as the tank. They've loaded it, they're adding to it, and it's over time, longer than 2 years, over time, it's being drained. So we see a lot of our donors are in the tank area, or the tank mentality at the foundation.
And then we have David. He's our tower donor. He said, I set myself up a budget of 5% a year. So the fund has over $2 million in it right now. So 5% a year is over $100,000. I try to just make it that as my annual budget because I want the fund to stay stable and even grow if possible, which it has been doing. So again, we're talking about the different benefits of the different strategies. The investment strategy for a tower donor is to really grow that fund in addition to what he is contributing. And this is also what's popular with the family. I'm totally drawing a blank on
the family foundation and the generational philanthropy.
The generational philanthropy is what I was looking for. Thank you. The generational philanthropy, they typically go with a tower donor because there is typically a larger amount of money in the tower. It holds a lot more than that bathtub, and really 10 plus years is really what the strategy is there as far as utilizing that DAF.
I might comment that we do have a couple of water tower DAFs here at the foundation. Both individuals had wealth events, and contributed significant six-figure amounts to their DAF. And they both existed more than 5 years.
Awesome.
And again, that's something a tower, we've said family foundation, but you could also start to think of it in terms of as like your own endowment. That you give yourself a spending rate policy. David's is 5%, that he's only going to spend 5%, but you've told the foundation to invest it. And so we're going to watch that initial gift, your principal, grow. Then we're going to watch the amount of your 5% distributions. We're going to see that charitable amount grow each year as well. And then that's something you can leave to you can set up that succession plan so that your family can continue to have that charitable impact through your tower donor advised fund. So kind of to sum these three models up, tub, tank, and tower, and again, we give thanks to Dr. Heiss for this really helpful metaphor, but you can see that there are different, just summarizing what we said, the different kinds of wealth events that a donor may have that could impact how they would like their donor advised fund to function, what kind of contribution they have that they're going to use, and how important is that tax benefit. So a tub model, that tub person, there's not going to be a major tax benefit that would differ from, I've got my commitment at my church, I'm going to write 12 checks to my church, or I'm going to give it to the foundation to make 12 distributions over the period of years. That kind of the tub donor is really attracted to the simplicity of one receipt and the record keeping and the flexibility of being able to make gifts, and even that $200 or $500 honorarium that you're going to give to your church or to another church or to a memorial gift you want to make. All these different gifts that would be tax receipt items, you're getting one receipt. So for them, it's that the tub folks are usually attracted because of the convenience factors, not so much the tax benefits or the type of gift that they're going to use to fund the donor advised fund. However, you see that the tank and the tower folks are having a wealth event, a larger amount of money that they need to be charitable with in the given year, and that tax benefit is really important to them. That this wealth event may account for multiple years of their charitable giving, but they want to claim that deduction in 1 year. And these folks may be more attracted to seeing their donor advised fund invested in the stock market in some way. The tub folks who are going to fill it and drain it, we don't recommend that you invest this. Just like with a local church, when they want to set up a fund at the foundation, we ask them, how long do you think you're going to have this fund here? Are you going to need to withdraw this money after a year or within a year? And if it's within a year, let's not expose it to the risk of the market. But if you're looking at more than a year, we do recommend investing it so that it can have that opportunity to growth, which means it could increase your missional and your charitable impact. And depending on how does a donor want to really encourage the generational philanthropy and see this as a way to encourage generosity in the future generations. So we think this is a helpful place where you can see a summary of what kind of donor advised fund would be attractive to you and your family. What type of donor advised fund? How would you want your donor advised fund to function based upon the gifts that you're wanting to make, what kind of wealth event have you had, and how long do you want that wealth event to help to provide your charitable giving? And we thank Dr. Heiss for really summing those up with that. We've shared a lot of the benefits of donor advised funds, but we just want to highlight these three benefits that are your planned giving strategies. So a planned gift is a gift that you plan to make in the future, whether that just be later in life or a gift that you want to make in your estate plan. So a gift that you're going to make from your own estate, so a legacy gift. But some people use DAFs as a plan giving strategy for that taxable, that tax reason that they can bunch their charitable gifts, that they can donate more in 1 year to get a larger deduction, but then spread out their charitable giving. Again, the donor advised fund succession plans that you can pass on the advisory privileges to the next generation. But we also want to mention this, that we're using all those acronyms again, DAFs coupled with a CRT, which is a charitable remainder trust. You can also pass your DAF on. You can give your DAF to a charitable organization in the end. So there's a way the next successor could be, or you can name an organization or ministry to be the perpetual beneficiary. It's something that you can continue to pass on in line with your passions and your charitable desires. So hopefully y'all are now just as excited about donor advised funds as me and Amy, and you're thinking, I want a donor advised fund, but now what? Well, contrary to this picture of your Methodist Foundation for Arkansas development staff who are wondering now what, we actually do know now what in setting up a donor advised fund. It's simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, you're just going to make that contribution to the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas. You can fund your DAF with a check, with cash, with an online gift, or you've got that appreciated stock and you don't want to have to pay the capital gains tax on the appreciated stock. You can work with your stockbroker to send that stock directly to the foundation. Always important to highlight, do not cash that out yourself. Have it sent directly from your broker to us at the Methodist Foundation. We'll help to facilitate that so that you don't have to pay the taxes on that stock, and especially on the gains. And again, it can't be a QCD from an IRA, but you're going to, first step, make the contribution to the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas. We have a simple contract that we'll set up together. This is where you're going to tell us how to invest it. You could say, this is going to be a tub for me. I'm going to drain it and fill it again every year. And we're just going to place that in our money market account where it will have some growth to it. The amount of growth varies year by year or month, varies over time with our bank. Or you're going to say, I want this to be here for a while. This is going to be a tank or a tower to me. I'd like this to be invested into one of your investment pools. And we'll talk to you about those. So you give us your investment options or your decision. And then we always ask, even if you're not wanting this to be a tower, we want you to go ahead and name a successor advisor so that should something happen to you, or if you want to see it as a tower, who either along with you and after you is going to have the advisory privileges to tell the foundation where to send distributions or grants from your donor advised fund. And then the fun part, start making grants, start sending out those charitable gifts to your church and to your other beloved Methodist ministry. So it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, make the gift, tell us how to invest it, tell us your succession plan, and then start making those grants and start being charitable. Back to Amy.
And I think I have 1 minute, so I'm going to go quickly.
Okay.
So we hope that you've learned a lot about donor advised funds, and we just wanted to finish up with other ways that we can partner with your church. And some of your churches have already taken advantage of some of these things, but definitely want to plug it because it's important to us to be able to provide these to our churches and Methodists across the state. So, obviously our bread and butter is working with churches and endowments and investing their funds that they've entrusted in us. And so we do have those proven investment options to help churches grow their endowments to have money to do what they need to do with their ministries. But also we do legacy giving and estate planning. We have something called Planning a Legacy. And that is what Lynn is showing right there. And something that we It's about a 90-minute program that we offer free service to churches, just to encourage them to think about legacy giving and the different. It's a very high level presentation, just all the things that go into estate planning and legacy giving. And then we also offer various workshops, both in Little Rock and in Northwest Arkansas, from financial workshops. We just had a retirement workshop for clergy, and we offer an endowment seminar we're going to be doing in September. So just various activity or various programs that we like to share with those across the state. So those are just other ways that we like to partner with the church. Here is our beautiful staff. Everyone but me is in Little Rock. So, and as I mentioned at the start of our presentation, we opened a Northwest Arkansas office almost 4 years ago, which is crazy to imagine. And there are 2 office spaces there. So, at any point you're in Little Rock or Rogers, please stop by and see us. And definitely, there's our contact information. So if you're interested in establishing a DAF with the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, we would love to do that with you, partner with you in that. So, if there are any other questions or anything else, we're happy. I know we want to be mindful of your time, and sorry we went 2 minutes over, but if you do have any further questions, we'd be happy to stay on and answer those. So, and this, as we mentioned too, this has been recorded, and then also we'll provide the slide deck as well, so you can have that. So
Happy to send that out.
Yeah. Any questions?
I'm
Thank you.
gonna have to run, so let me just say thank you to all of you for doing this. It's very helpful to me.
Excellent. Excellent.
Very
Valerie,
informative.
sorry, bud.
I
I
just
just
said
saw
very
Valerie comment.
informative. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Valerie, I just wanted to mention, because Bailey and I also quickly chatted about this. I do have some information for the grant recipient side of this, that the sessions that I went to at this conference really was geared towards the nonprofits who are receiving these grants. So I'd be happy to visit with you, and definitely Bailey, have your contact information as well to visit with you about some of those strategies and from that perspective. So we have definitely more information on that too. So appreciate all of y'all for joining us today, and let us know if we can help you in any way.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. Great job, y'all.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, Clarence.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
thank you, Clarence. Oh, Clarence is gone. Clarence
Are we-
out.
Aren't we? Enough of y'all.
Done. Zoom is over. He's like the youth who was on one of the spectrums of a church where I served, and we were having a Christmas party, and it was like just the Bible study. It was a small group. It was delightful. I was having fun, and then all of a sudden she stood up and she goes, "Guys, it's 7:30. The party's over."
Okay.
She closed her phone. It's like, so there it is. Like, people were like laughing and still enjoying it. Guys, it's 7:30. The party's over. It wasn't even at her home.
But she was ready for it to be out.
Clarence, guys,
That's
it's
hysterical.
11:04. The party's over.
Yeah.
Excellent job, Amy. Excellent
You as
job.
well. Thank you for chiming in on things that I meant to mention and forgot. So
No,
I
you did the
appreciate
same.
that.
Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that for me too. You did it
Yeah.
too. We're a good
Yeah.
team.
We
You
is.
did a good job with this.
Yeah, Bailey had messaged me privately. I was about to mention it, and then when I realized she had messaged privately, just saying, on the donor end, she's so excited about this, and the things that OMP wants to be able to share this information with our donors and be more intentional about it. If y'all have working that we could add to our thank you notes, we just might need to set up a call. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if let's talk about it in development to say we had such a good response, or we, let me stop the recording.